Joining today, we're going to talk about top banker Janet Yellen, and I call her top banker because she was the head of the Federal Reserve for years, and now she's the Secretary of the Treasury in America. She says that America can fund two wars at the same time, and also Mark Levin freaks out at Fox News reporter, and they debate over the Israel-Palestine conflict and America's involvement. We're going to talk about that today and a lot more. I got a lot of clips, so I hope you guys join and stay tuned. Dream Rare Podcast starts now.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles.
What's going on, everybody? So I'm going to just roll my Instagram real quick because I did a little breakdown of Janet Yellen saying America can definitely fund two wars at once because that's just what we're good for, right? Americans just have to have rising inflation and send all our money overseas. That's pretty much, we're just like a working state at this point. But don't worry, the top banker says so. So here's that reel, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit. The current United States Secretary of the Treasury, Janet Yellen, said recently that America can certainly afford two wars. I think that caption speaks for itself. And I have to say this. After September 11th, George W. Bush said, "Every nation in every region now has a decision to make. Either you are with us or you are with the terrorists." And I'm glad to see people in the comment section on every page of people trying to regurgitate this same type of war propaganda logic. I'm glad to see people in the comments winning the debate against the influencers they follow. It's really encouraging to see the audiences of short-sighted influencers counter that narrative. God bless you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. So I left this comment on my own video. I said, I understand tensions are high and real conflicts exist, but Americans are dealing with crazy prices, inflation, and issues in our country. Crime and theft on the rise in cities, open border. The George W. Bush rhetoric worked when everyone thought America was awesome and we would go build schools overseas for unfortunate people and bring them freedom. Now, people don't feel free and don't even trust American schools. After the Iraq and Afghanistan war, Americans distrust the narrative. Right after COVID mania, the Ukraine war broke out and America sent hundreds of billions overseas again. I could see it from all sides, but eventually American politicians and media have to consider the American people. And that's how I feel. And I really want to be grateful today because obviously, like, God is great. Everybody that's watching, you have eyes, you have ears. Well, maybe you don't have one of the two, but still you have something to hear or listen to this or see it. But in general, a lot of people are waking up. Like, I see all the people that are trying to push the George W. Bush propaganda. They're getting ratioed by their own audience. Like, people are not stupid in the comment sections and they're countering the narrative. And, it's very interesting. Janet Yellen, head of the Treasury, the money in America, she went back and forth from Federal Reserve, which is literally the money, right? They say, oh, the Federal Reserve, it's just this independent, totally, amazing group of people that just controls your money, just totally independent from the American government. Wait, what? But then the lady who was there for 4 years or 5 years now is at the head of the U.S. Secretary, and she says that we should support a new war because we can afford it, even though nobody can afford anything. I mean, it's not hard to see what's going on here, but the more you notice and the more you see, the more they're going to say it's hate speech. So we're gonna get into it real quick, but I want to read this headline because if I could sum up the parody and tragedy in the world with one headline, I would do it with this headline. It's so bizarre, but it's almost funny. It says, here's a headline: Israel makes the hormones I need, but I support Palestinian liberation. A large part of the trans community in the U.S. is being forced to choose between our life-affirming transitions and our Palestinian siblings demanding for freedom. The chaos and the psychosis can't be summed up better than Israel makes the hormones I need, but I support Palestinian liberation. Which one do I want? My hormones or my Palestinians? I don't know. Fun fact for those who didn't know, I guess Israel makes the hormones. Fascinating. All right, I want to look at two clips real quick because Mark Levin and Fox News, it's a pretty solid clip. I don't have the whole thing because I don't feel like getting copyright stricken. But the first one is Ron DeSantis, because I've been trying to explain to people, and I know it sounds like I'm being hateful or I'm being like edgy or something, but Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis are very similar in the sense that they both passed legislation anti-Semitism legislation. And in that legislation, Trump passed it through executive orders. DeSantis passed it into schools in I think 2019 into Florida, and he's done something else for like leaving flyers on people's property, etc., but trying to hype up the charges. But the point that I'm getting to is in those anti-Semitism hate speech laws that Trump and DeSantis are trying to pass, I could tell you two of them. One of them is you're not allowed to criticize Israel more than other democratic nations. So Trump and DeSantis think that they need to police you on which countries you can and can't criticize and how much you criticize them. And another one says you can't accuse any Jew in America of having dual loyalty to Israel, because if you suggest that any Jewish person in America also likes Israel, then that's anti-Semitism and it needs to be passed into legislation. And eventually Democrats and Republicans, but especially the Trump and DeSantis types, which is like the whole party, they're going to want to criminalize you in America for speaking, just like in European countries that we hate. And people don't realize this is happening because they follow a lot of accounts that act like feds and just freak them out and stuff all the time and just make them look at the other side. But this is really, really happening. And I just want to show you why I'm probably not going to vote for Ron DeSantis now, because I really don't respect the guy. And I'm tired of pretending like I have to vote for the lesser two evils. I mean, in the primary, DeSantis probably has no chance anyway, but it's like these people don't respect me, so I don't respect them. And I'm not inspired to vote for a person that says that pretty much all Palestinians in the Gaza Strip are anti-Semitic. Listen to what he says. He tries to say every Palestinian is an anti-Semite. I mean, Ron DeSantis is such a disgrace, such a disappointment.
From Gaza into this country as refugees. I am not going to do that. If you look at how they behave, not all of them are Hamas, but they are all anti-Semitic. None of them believe in Israel's right to exist. None of the Arab states are willing to take, any of them. The Arab states should be taking them if you have refugees. You don't fly people and import them into the United States of America. So we're going to be very strong.
I mean, I hear what he's saying about not taking a bunch of refugees, but he's trying to suggest that they're all anti-Semitic. And I want to be really clear, and I don't care how many people don't want to hear this, because if you lose the First Amendment in America, you're done. And I find a few things really interesting. In 2019, there was a lot of things going on, right before the pandemic. And I'm a firm believer, if you don't stand up for the freedom of speech and the freedom of peaceful protest for others, you not only will lose it, but you actually deserve to lose it. So in 2019, a few things happened. Donald Trump passed an executive order for universal flu vaccines. What an interesting thing. Event 201 happened. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation partnered with the World Economic Forum and who else did they partner with? I think it was one of the colleges, Johns Hopkins University, Johns Hopkins, and they did a pandemic simulation, right? Okay, Trump and DeSantis in 2019, they also passed hate speech rules into legislation. And I remember thinking, like, what the hell? My own party, my favorite politicians are passing new rules that get to police my speech and say what I can and can't say. I can't criticize a foreign country more than another foreign country. And if you suggest someone in America likes another country, that's hate speech. And I was like, what the hell? And as soon as they did all this stuff, the next year, we lost everything. We were locked in our house. We couldn't speak out about the pharmaceutical industry. And honestly, I'm not saying it's right. It's obviously wrong. But, if Americans don't pay attention to when their First Amendment is sucked out by the left or the right, then they actually don't deserve it. And I think a lot of Americans think that they deserve things because they like Trump or they vote Republican or they vote Democrat. And they think that their allegiance to a political party means that they actually deserve something. But you actually don't. And I think the left called the right anti-Semites all the time. And now the irony for the left is they want to oppose this war and they want to support Gaza and Palestinians. And now they're being called anti-Semites. And it's like this full circle of what comes around goes around. If you can't defend free speech principles for yourself, whether you're left wing or right wing, it's going to get used against you. If you don't believe in the right to peacefully protest and you exaggerate and say that everybody's doing something they're not, it's eventually going to be used against you. And right now, you're watching the left and the right suffer under policies that they supported for the other side. And it's actually deserving. I don't think Americans are victims. I think America deserves this. Like the left for years would say, oh, it's anti-Semitic to criticize George Soros. It's anti-Semites. They're all anti-Semites on the right. Oh, Trump's an anti-Semite, blah, 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 blah. And now they're like, oh, I'm not anti-Semitic. I just support Gaza. It's like, well, maybe you shouldn't have called everyone else that for years and exaggerated about the right. Now it's being used against you. And I'm watching accounts like Graham Allen. He's like, yeah, the FBI is going after Hamas in America, and they said there's going to be a lone event. It's like, did they take a break from persecuting and investigating Trump supporters? Now you guys are big fans. I watched a chick unironically share a Joe Biden quote. She hates Joe Biden. She's never once agreed with him. She thinks he's a liar. And now all of a sudden she's like, yeah, whatever. But long story short, it's like I don't want to talk about it too much because I want to get into new stuff. But the Patriot Act era Bush Jr. bloodlust Republicans of like, we have to go beat up the Middle East to fight ISIS and Al Qaeda, they allowed their freedom and liberty to get sucked out under the Patriot Act. And now it's being used against Trump supporters. And I'm just noticing, and oh, we don't have the free speech to say what we want. Well, your party's also passing legislation to get rid of it. So, Ron DeSantis, the fact that he's just sitting there trying to say that all Palestinians are anti-Semitic while he's passing anti-Semitism speech laws, they're going to come for them, and then they're going to come for you, and then they're going to say everybody's terrorists. It's like, okay, well, real terrorists are bad and they could go after them overseas, people that are killing innocent women and children. But if you're going to call everybody who's silent or who supports one side of the war a terrorist, if you think Russia's not as bad as Ukraine, are you a terrorist? If you think that America and Israel have done war crimes as well as terrorists, does that make you ISIS now? How far do people really want to push this stuff? Because they, the same way that they kind of overstep and overstate. So the fact that Ron DeSantis literally will stand up there and say everybody in everyone in Gaza is anti-Semitic as he's passing speech laws that expand the definition. And I'm going to repeat this before I play the Mark Levin clip. When you listen to these neocon and Zionist first right-wingers that are just like blah, 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 they say a bunch of stupid shit all the time. They'll tell you, well, no, peaceful protest isn't violent protest. Of course, no one's saying that violence is okay. It's not. What I'm trying to say is you say violence, 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 and then Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump pass speech legislation that has nothing to do with violence. It says it's basically a foreign country loyalty law. It says you're not allowed to talk about that country. You're not allowed to call that country Nazis. You can call anybody Nazis, I guess. They exaggerate with that word all the time, but you can't call them that. And I'm not telling people to call people Nazis because it's an overused word. And most people that use it against someone else aren't talking to an actual Nazi. But what I'm trying to say is, in general, it's like Ron DeSantis will say, oh, this is what I mean. And then you don't even read the legislation. So, I know that Trump and DeSantis, whether a million people argue with me or not, I know that they are passing criminalization speech laws further and further and further into America. And one day you're going to wake up and you're going to be living in France or Germany where you can go to prison for speaking about something. And it'll probably expand, and then it'll probably be LGBTQ plus. They called somebody a fat lesbian in a foreign country and they're going to prison now. It's like, if you can't support free speech for things that you disagree with, then you deserve to get got by these laws. They're going to start with that because they know the right wing is stupid and totally brainwashed by propaganda, and be like, oh, it's the Muslims. Oh yeah, we got to defend Israel. And then they'll pass the speech laws. And then 5 years later, you'll be dragged off to prison for saying that your kid shouldn't be transgendered. And you're like, why is this happening to me? Because you didn't figure it out when we tried to tell you 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. It's been 7 years of this. And now finally people are starting to wake up because it's getting obvious. And I got people that never saw this stuff. They're starting to see it because the Dave Rubins of the world, the Ben Shapiros of the world, the Mark Levins of the world, the veil's being lifted, and everyone's like, wait, you're not consistent with your principles. I don't understand why you believe that when you usually believe that. And it's like, they never were consistent. They're just like master, they tell you certain things that you agree with, but when crunch time comes, they say something else. But anyway, here's the clip of Mark Levin on Fox News, and I wouldn't be surprised if this Fox News host is fired within a couple weeks. I don't know who she is, but she told a little bit too much truth on Fox, and I don't know that that's allowed. She said, hey, questioning America's involvement in this war is not anti-Semitic. So now I wanted to talk about this too. Charlie Kirk is being called an anti-Semite. He's one of the most pro-Israel people in the Republican Party. Charlie Kirk has an organization that's pretty much just a funneling Americans to Israel. They send people to Israel. It's like all he does is stand up for Israel. He's being called an anti-Semite. Fox News is saying, don't call me an anti-Semite. Isn't that weird? When you guys threw me under the bus a couple years ago, none of you losers had my back. And now it's all coming back to you. Oh, am I supposed to feel bad for these people? Oh, I'm not. I don't do hate speech. I don't do hate speech. Of course you don't. But you scumbags defended and covered up the hate speech laws that Trump and DeSantis were passing into legislation because you wanted to be so loyal to the donor class and such. But whatever. Here's Mark Levin and the Fox News host. Interesting clip.
There we are in Ukraine. We could have another front here. China's on the move. I mean, this has to be, we have to pause and think a little bit here because it just sounds like a roll towards war.
Honestly, I don't know what you're talking about. What does Ukraine have to do with this and China have to do it? I'm talking about what the Israelis are going on.
I'm talking, the Israelis have their issue, but I'm concerned that a lot of the talk that's going on now is about involving the United States. And that's another matter. And it's not anti-Semitic to say that we as Americans should take a pause.
Okay, look, I didn't say it was anti-Semitic. That's number one. So I don't appreciate that either. Number two, the Israelis haven't asked us to get involved. They asked us to give them equipment.
So you see how nervous she was? She's like, it's not anti-Semitic to ask if America should do this. It actually is anti-Semitic to do that because Trump and DeSantis have passed anti-Semitism hate speech laws into legislation. So they've changed the definition of anti-Semitism to mean what you thought it was into 30 different things. And now it's spectacularly backfiring on all the people who covered it up for years. And I don't feel sorry for him. Charlie Kirk for years falsely smeared people as anti-Semites. Everybody's an anti-Semite who disagrees with me. He takes a bunch of donor money. He sends people to Israel and then says it's anti-Semitic to notice what he's doing. And the press is on his side, whatever. And it's like now they're trying to kick. I saw Meghan McCain and her husband trying to kick Charlie Kirk at a turning point and say they have an anti-Semitism problem. Turning Point has an anti-Semitism problem? What are you talking about? They send people to Israel. Pretty much at this point, Turning Point USA pretty much just exists to brainwash Republicans into supporting that country more than their own self-interest. They do more for Israel in some cases than they do for the United States of America. They just yell at blue-haired liberals on a college campus, you know what I'm saying, and get little highlight reels and then, wear boat shoes and make a bunch of like college kids be like, what losers these people are. But anyway, it's like Charlie Kirk has done a lot for Israel. TPUSA has done a lot for Israel. Charlie Kirk has falsely smeared multiple people as anti-Semites and this and that. And I'm Charlie. I have a big forehead. Look at me. Okay. And now they're calling me anti-Semitic. I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm so loyal. I'm so loyal. Welcome to the club, Charlie. It's never enough. If you ever stand up for America in any capacity, they're going to call you an anti-Semite. So welcome to the club. You didn't say anything about the speech laws that were passed. And you still got called it, Now Fox News is panicking, saying, I'm not this, I'm not that. But you actually are that because the definition of the word has been changed. And what people don't realize is I don't care if you support Israel. I don't care if you don't. I don't care if you live in Israel. I don't care if you live in America. I don't care, I'm not going to sit and police what people can and can't like, who they support or not. It's not up to me. I think everyone should be allowed to love Israel, defend Israel, and love Israel, and care about America more than Israel. It's like whatever you want to believe. It doesn't matter. But what I want to explain to people is the Zionist first Republicans, which is not, and this is not a bash at Jewish people in any way, because most of them at this point are Christians. There's a lot of Christian non-Jews that are Zionists also. It's more than just being Jewish. Millions of Jewish people are not Zionists. So when I say that word, I'm just trying to be pinpoint accurate and not blame people, but just be actually accurate. What I noticed in the Republican Party wasn't just that they supported Israel and were like proud Zionists. I noticed that that was the main thing that they did. And when it came to the First Amendment matters more than everything except Zionism. And this matters more than everything except Zion. And I just started noticing the pattern. I'm like, oh, this party cares about that more than America. And then once you realize that, they just call you an anti-Semite and you're like banned from existence. And Jordan Peterson just takes pills and screams on Twitter, out into the blue, but never fights his own wars. And Nikki Haley is like role playing to be a barista in Tel Aviv or something. I think she just wants to hand out Starbucks coffee there or something. But in general, I'm fine with sending Nikki Haley there. I think she would do a good job. But anyway, long story short, nothing that they pass into legislation makes any sense at all. I want to explain it because I did a little bit yesterday, but I want to repeat it because I think it's pretty profound. One of the hate speech rules that Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump passed into legislation, and yes, it's not criminal if you say it, they're not going to arrest you, but it's getting further and further and further. And now Florida's trying to expand it from schools into every branch of society. And anytime you police speech like that and define hate speech and do this, they're pushing to criminalize speech in America. I guarantee it. They're pushing to shut down peaceful protests in America. I guarantee it. And the Republican Party's in on it because all your favorite puppets like Trump and DeSantis, they're not who you think they are. And I know people don't want to hear that. So it's like, whatever, you'll figure it out eventually, like people are these last couple of weeks. But I just want to explain two of the rules and show you how, one, it's completely the antithesis of the American idea of free speech and free expression. And two, it doesn't even make sense because the people pushing these laws and rules don't even follow them themselves. The first one is you can't criticize Israel more than another democratic nation. That is part of the 20-part definition of anti-Semitism that Trump and DeSantis and the Republican Party and the State Department have adapted, and they're pushing it through legislation. Do you as an American citizen want to be told that you are now policed about which countries you can and can't criticize, and they're going to tell you when it's too far or when it's not too far? Like, if you criticize Ukraine more than Russia, does that mean you hate Ukraine, or you criticize Ukraine more than Sweden? You might criticize Ukraine more than Sweden because Sweden's just kind of sitting there and Ukraine is funneling $200 billion. It doesn't necessarily, they'll say, oh, you hate all these people if you don't like Israel. It's like, it's not true at all. If you talk about Ukraine more than Sweden, it doesn't mean you hate Ukrainians and you love Swedish people. It just means geopolitically, it makes more sense to talk about and criticize Ukraine at this given moment. And Israel is one of the biggest recipients of foreign aid, even more than Ukraine in most years. So it's like, it doesn't make you a hateful person, but this is a game you play. Oh, you hate all of us. Oh, you're anti-Semitic. Oh, even DeSantis will go as far to say that all Palestinians and all people in Gaza are anti-Semitic. I mean, the dude is such a puppet. He's like, just like, look at me, look how good a boy I am. He's just virtue signaling out there. But in general, Americans, because they follow these people and they worship these people, they don't even realize that DeSantis and Trump and the Republican Party are passing these into legislation. And then they turn around and they're like, why don't I have free speech anymore? Why am I locked down? Why is this happening? It's like, well, if you give up an inch when it comes to the First Amendment, they take a mile, and then it expands into things you want to say. And if you want to criticize, Rashida Tlaib, maybe eventually that'll be anti-Islamophobia or something. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's not, you don't have to like it, but if you give up your right to be able to freely talk about a foreign nation, you don't actually deserve anything. And this is why I'm not as popular as I used to be in a lot of Republican circles, because they'll be like, you deserve all these things if you vote for Trump. You deserve all these things if you freak out and get fearful and day of jihad and blah, blah, blah. I'm Dan Bongino. I'm angry. And then people think they're like, oh, I'm going to vote. And it's not going to change. It's not going to change because these people are not telling you the full story, and they're covering up the First Amendment infringements that Trump and DeSantis and all your favorites are passing, because they're all the same in this category. So it's like, if you can't defend the First Amendment, you don't deserve it. I know they'll tell you you deserve it so they can sell you more Trump merch and go to Mar-a-Lago, but it's not. And then one of the other rules and laws, I spoke about it a little bit yesterday, but when it comes to like a lot of these people like Janet Yellen, Ben Shapiro, and Mark Levin and others, why do they feel that way? I don't know. Well, I'll tell you what you can't say. You definitely can't say, because it's one of the anti-Semitism speech laws. You're not allowed to say Ben Shapiro's loyal to Israel. That's an anti-Semitic speech violation. DeSantis passed that into legislation. Trump passed it in, and a lot of social media sites do it. So you're not obviously, if you watch Ben Shapiro's network, he loves Israel, like obviously, but you're not allowed to say it because it's now a hate speech thought crime, and DeSantis and Trump are both in on it. So they're not going to have your back either. So it's like, okay, so I'm not allowed to say Ben Shapiro likes Israel, even though everyone knows he does, right? That would be anti-Semitic to say that Ben Shapiro has dual loyalty, because that's something I would never say, right? But then on the same time, people like Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, and others, they will then go and say, if you're a Jew, you have to support Israel. How dare you? You're not really us if you don't support us. And it's like, so which one is it? Because millions of Jews love Israel. Millions of Jews live in Israel. Millions of Jews, are proud Zionists. And then millions of Jews are left-wing. Millions of Jews, there's rabbis who are Orthodox who think that Israel's an illegitimate state, and it's not even part of the Torah. So I'm just saying, like, which one is it? Like the Zionist speech laws don't even make sense if you just take 5 minutes and use your brain. On one hand, they're calling you anti-Semitic if you say that people don't have loyalty to Israel, but then they'll say you're anti-Semitic if you don't have loyalty to Israel. So it's like they demand that you're loyal to Israel, or else they call you an anti-Semite. But then if you notice that people are loyal to Israel, they also call you an anti-Semite. So it's like anybody with half a brain can figure out that, one, they don't even make sense, and two, they shouldn't be passed into legislation for a multitude of reasons. But then they always use the most extreme example and be like, oh, then didn't you see this happening? I'm like, yeah, I saw that happening, and I condemn terrorism and I condemn violence. But the speech laws that are being passed into American life don't say that. It doesn't say don't go do that. It says 30 other things. So it's like, how in the world are people falling for this? And I'll tell you two things. One, they're not anymore. And everybody that doesn't understand what I'm saying, every influencer, every little media puppet, every pawn, every, half-baked, low IQ, fake intellectual that, is Republican and used to being so popular, they're posting dumb stuff this week. And everyone in the comment section, every time I've seen someone post something stupid or hypocritical or fake about this war, everybody in the comment sections correcting them, arguing with them. It's like they're like, oh wow, what I'm saying is not popular. It's like for the first time, the tides are starting to turn, and everyone's starting to figure it out, and it's like pretty wild to watch. But also, it's just like, it's just nuts. So it's like, I don't think that everybody of a certain ethnicity has loyalty to Israel. I don't think it's true. There's millions of Christians that are more loyal to Israel than a lot of Jews are. And then there's millions of Christians that are not Zionist Christians, and they believe that that's a false interpretation of the Bible and that that's not the biblical Israel. There's a debate in the Christian world about Israel, and there's a debate in the Jewish world about Israel. And I think that that's fine. I don't think every Jew should have to like Israel, or every Jew shouldn't like Israel. I think it's okay for Jewish people to have their own identity, their own personality. And while they might be tribal in some ways, some might not be. And it's up to them. I can't tell you who to like or what to think. But when Trump, DeSantis, and the Republican Party are passing speech regulation and speech policing that says it is an anti-Semitic offense to say that any Jew in America has dual loyalty, and Ben Shapiro's out here clearly very loyal to Israel, but you're not allowed to say it or notice it, because if you say it or notice it, that's anti-Semitism. But at the same time, the same people that are saying that are telling you that you must be loyal to Israel, and they're yelling at Jews that aren't loyal to Israel. So it's like they don't even believe their own laws. They're like, we're not all loyal to Israel. True, that's true. I agree. Not everybody of that ethnicity or religion is loyal to Israel. I know it. I've seen videos of rabbis that are against Zionism. I've seen rabbis against Israel. I've seen, liberal Jews for Israel, and then I've seen liberal Jews against Israel. I understand that there's a lot of diversity of thought in the Jewish world. And what a lot of people don't realize is also Netanyahu, he was the leader, and then he wasn't, and then he was again. And there were protests a few months ago against Netanyahu. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody likes it, because the Israeli parliament started almost trying to supersede the Supreme Court and take full power just not that long ago. Somebody Jewish that I saw on Twitter explained how he visited his family in Israel and said that when he went to visit his Israeli family, that there were protests all over the streets because Israelis were pissed off that Netanyahu's Likud government, that's the name of the party, like the Likud party, I believe, they were trying to overturn certain Supreme Court regulations to have total dominance and power. And the Jewish people were upset. Jewish people have diversity of thought in Israel, in America, all over the place. But with the Zionist hate speech laws, they say you're not allowed to say that any of us have loyalty to Israel. Okay, that's a lie, but that's fine. Okay. But then at the same time, it's like, if you don't have loyalty to Israel, you're not really one of us, and you're a bad person, and you're a terrorist. So you're a terrorist if you don't support Israel. But at the same time, you're saying that everyone doesn't support Israel, but you want them to support Israel, or else you're going to call them names. This is why all of these influencers that don't understand what I understand, they're having a bad week, because they're posting stuff and their audiences are intellectually debating them, and they can't figure out why. They're like, why is my audience turning against me? What's going on? It's like, you're not smart. That's what's going on. Or you're not real. You're fake. You're 3 years behind of a discussion that people have been having for a while. And it's just fascinating to see that it's not popular anymore. And I want to say this too, Elon, whether you like Elon or not, I'm not asking you to put a computer chip in your head and jump in a SpaceX rocket or anything. But if you really watch what Elon did, he did the world a massive service. I mean, there might be a trick at the end, and eventually, he might switch on you like Trump did or whatever. And I'm not telling you to follow him to Pluto or whatever where he pretends to go. But I'm just saying, objectively, he bought Twitter. He exposed the fact of what they did during the election. He kicked out a bunch of phony people. He allowed thousands of people to come back. his community notes does it's not perfect, but it does a better job than Facebook or Instagram fact checkers. And if you look at this discussion on X, the reason everybody's so mad at him is because he allowed thousands of banned accounts to come back and join the discussion. And the thing is, when people get banned, sometimes they're terrible, but other times they're not. Sometimes they just get rid of competition because they can't compete with the conversation. And you see on X now that there's a lot of people countering mainstream narratives, and it's really healthy. Even on Instagram, I've never seen so much dissent from establishment conservative ink, or just like really low, like dumb posts, or like things that don't add up. Like, the people are not buying stuff anymore. And I think this is why they rely so heavily on censorship, is because, it's better to like cover that stuff up and act like it's not popular than to let everybody see that there is a diversity of thought. And I think most people, when they're shown the truth and when they're shown certain ideas, they're able to like understand that, okay, well, let me consider that. Let me put that up against what I think. And, that's where I think a lot of people are waking up, because if I say this calmly, peacefully, and then you just say it's hate speech, or you just say everybody of that person hates it's like, over time, people are gonna be like, oh, that doesn't make sense. Or if Dave Rubin's like, oh, I'm pro free speech, I'm pro protest, but I'm glad they're shutting down protests because all protests are terrorism, even though they say that about us and it's not true. It's like, everybody in the comment section is like, Dave, I thought you were principled. And it's like, there's going to be a pattern that you notice. It's going to be people that are principled. They're principled about everything except for one topic. There's one topic that's above the First Amendment for them. There's one topic that's above America for them. There's one topic that's above loyalty to the American people. There's one topic that's above, we're libertarian with spending, but we need to spend here. It's like, there's something that supersedes their, conviction to all the things that they got famous pretending to have conviction to. And once you figure it out, they're going to say you're a hateful person. You get what I'm saying? They're going to be like, oh, you hate me and you hate it's like, it's not true. And like that illusion is going to get shattered, because a lot of the world does not play these same games. And in general, like, the way that they act like everybody of a certain race or religion all thinks this way is absolutely not true. And all you have to do is go to New York City and look at the protests, and you'll see people of that ethnicity with an alternate opinion on the topic. So it's not to say it's right or wrong, but like this idea that they're trying to push that everybody who thinks this way is supporting this group and you're this, that. And it's like, no, that's not remotely true. I'm going to read a few comments and then I'm going to take off. God bless you guys. Let me know what you think. Just to sum up this live stream, Janet Yellen, the top banker, she's the head of the Treasury in America. She was once the Federal Reserve. She's a big, banking superstar. Janet Yellen, she's like the Michael Jordan of banking, just dropping swishes with them dollar bills. Shout out Janet Yellen, saying girl boss, hashtag girl boss Janet. In general, she says that America can fund and afford two wars. Thank you. Ron DeSantis says that all the Palestinians in the Gaza are anti-Semitic. Ron DeSantis is another disappointment, but I already knew who he was. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I want to vote because I think Biden's a disaster when it comes to domestic policy. I would rather drill for oil. I would rather, get federal judges. But honestly, like, the more that Trump and DeSantis talk, I realize that they think that we're stupid. Like, when Trump, this is the one thing that I want to say too, and then I'll get to the comments. What made me annoyed that not a lot of people were on my side for a while, but now that's changing. It's not like I wanted to tell people not to vote for Trump or not to like Trump, but it's almost like a humiliation ritual. Like, at the end of the day, you get what you take, you get what you allow. And Trump, when he would just talk in these interviews about his vaccine and all these things that people disagreed, and like the way he would talk, it's like a humiliation ritual where like everybody disagrees with him, but he knows that you're not going to do anything and he knows that you have nowhere to go. So he's just going to keep doing it. You know what I'm saying? And everybody was defending Trump when he said, he's the news reported that Trump said something about Netanyahu unfavorable, and everyone defended Trump, and they're like, yeah, he's standing up to Netanyahu. And then he said, I stand with Bibi, and you know what I'm saying, and went the other way, and then people go the other way. But anyway, long story short, it's like with Trump and DeSantis, I want them to earn my vote. There's got to be a line in the sand, or these people are just going to keep punching us around like a punching bag. And with Trump, my line in the sand is like, bro, I'm not voting for you. If you say your vaccine saved 100 million lives, it's the greatest human achievement. That shows me that you're going to hire the pharmaceutical swamp again. You're a swamp creature. You're an establishment. You're the not so obvious establishment. You're a phony. And you have no problem telling your audience what a phony you are, because you know that they're like too weak or pathetic to like actually do anything about it and vote for someone else, or confront you and like tell you that they know that you're lying. So Trump just keeps like going through this humiliation ritual. It's like, look at Lindsey Graham on a stage, but I'm totally different. But here's Lindsey Graham for the 5th time this year, and my vaccine's amazing. And my Democrat friend told me this, and I'm pro-life, but now I'm pro-choice. And it's like, you know, Republicans, they don't have a line in the sand, and that's why they constantly get deceived and fooled and shorted. You know, I was going to say something else, but you get what I'm saying in general. And then with DeSantis, it's like, I think he does a good job with his domestic policy. I really do. I think he's very intelligent. He knows how to actually get stuff done. Trump is like a promoter, and Trump is a talker. DeSantis is a doer. That's why I like him. But DeSantis is like so fake when it comes to the anti-Semitism stuff. Listen, I don't want anybody to hurt anybody innocent, obviously. I don't want speech laws in America that exaggerate, and I don't think that that saves anybody's lives. And DeSantis is like the ultimate fraud. He loves passing this fake definition of anti-Semitism through legislation, and he has no problem exaggerating about who is and who isn't, and he's saying everything's a conspiracy theory. Like, DeSantis is an idiot. I don't even like him anymore, and it's like, I'm not inspired to put that guy's name on a piece of paper. And I'm not inspired to put Trump's name on a piece of paper. And for those wondering, I'm not inspired to put RFK's name on a piece of paper too, because although he's good at pharmaceutical stuff, RFK in that category is just as big of a sellout and just as big of a pushover. It's all an illusion. You know, they just want people to fight, divide and conquer. Now it's like, you know, it's like Muslims versus Christians again. They're trying to ramp up, and Jews. And then you have like red versus blue. And then next year it'll be black versus white when a cop does something and they film it. And then it's, you know, they want there to be chaos. And then out of chaos comes order, and they could just come in and nobody is going to be paying attention because they're constantly just fighting each other all the time. And, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't like any of these people at this point, and I really do want a Republican to win for domestic reasons, but I don't know. It's like, are these people going to lead me to the gulag just as fast as the Democrats are? If they can't even defend the First Amendment, and if something happened, they're going to turn around and call you a hate monger and pass hate speech laws against you and call you a conspiracy theorist. I'm starting to think that they're going to lead us to the gulag just as fast as the Democrats, you know? So it's one of those things. I'm drawing my line in the sand at this point. If Trump or DeSantis or any of these losers want to earn my vote, they need to tell me the truth. They need to show me they're going to support the First Amendment. Donald Trump needs to show me that he's learned his lesson from his pharmaceutical scams and his hiring of the swamp, which he doesn't seem like he does. And if every Republican drew their line in the sand, these people would be forced to change, but they don't have to change because people just fight amongst each other. And there's certain topics that they're both in on. Like, there's certain aspects of Trump that is a threat to the establishment, right? Like, if they want to drain us of oil and make us go to electric cars, which is a huge thing, energy is really important, and Trump is going to flip that, then he's a threat to that, right? And it's like, maybe DeSantis would be a threat too. But on other categories, there's certain things that none of them are going to do, and they're all subservient, and they're all going to bow down. And the truth is, at the end of the day, it's like, if you can't uphold the First Amendment, nothing else matters, because you're going to end up in a bad situation. And personally, I'm not starting a new theory, but I don't find it coincidental that the left started giving up the First Amendment from 2016 to 2020, and they didn't believe in it anymore because they went psychotic. And even like Noam Chomsky lost his mind and turned 300 years old. He looks like a shriveled up Oreo. A shriveled up Cheerio that's been in the, in the milk too long. Noam Chomsky, he used to be like a beacon of free speech, and now he's an imbecile. But anyway, the left gave up the First Amendment for 3 and 4 years and didn't believe in it. Then the right, under Trump and DeSantis, started passing anti-Semitism hate speech laws under the guise of like stopping violence. But in reality, all it did was police speech and add new speech regulations that most people wouldn't agree with if they actually read them all. And then then people will try to like take one or two. I'm talking about the whole list, okay? The whole list. They start with the craziest ones that obviously everybody disagrees with, and then they just start adding in more and more. But long story short, it's like, I don't find it coincidental that the left gave up the First Amendment, the right sold out the First Amendment, and then we're locked in our homes and we can't criticize the pharmaceutical industry. I don't think that's a coincidence. If you lose the First Amendment in America, I think it's a slippery slope to, situations like lockdowns. I don't find that coincidental. But long story short, I'm drawing a line in the sand. And if Trump and DeSantis want my vote, I'm tired of just bouncing back and forth like a ping pong ball between those two puppets and other people. I'm drawing a line in the sand. If you guys can't defend the First Amendment, if you guys are going to sell out our constitutional right for a foreign country and then call me a hate mongerer for noticing that you did it, I'm not putting your name down on a piece of paper. I don't care what happens. You guys need to lose. You guys need to go away. And people need to figure out that this is happening so it won't happen in the future. But until Republicans figure this out, the party's just going to be a total controlled op shit show. I'm going to look at a few comments. And I want to say this too real quick. When it comes to a lot of Republican accounts, right? I don't want to be a hater because there's some good ones and there's a lot of winners, but I'm not joking. And I just want to tell my audience this. I respect you to listen, watch what you want to watch, listen to who you want to listen to. Like, you don't have to listen to me. I don't expect you to. I think that every person in the world should do what they want as far as like podcasts and hobbies. You know what I'm saying? But just for those who wonder, I don't listen to 99% of Republicans because they just sound like feds to me now. I'm not saying they're all feds, but they just sound like feds. Like, they're always like angry, freaking their audience out. And like, it's always over some stupid, like, little controlled op circus that's not going to matter in 3 weeks, or they're talking about this and that. And I'm like, I feel bad when people talk to me and they're like, oh, did you hear this? And did you hear what Dan Bongino said? Did you hear what Graham did? Did you hear what that guy said? And it's like, no, I don't. Like, I look at their posts and I'm like, to me, I'm like, that stuff is like, I don't know, like, the Trump movement just seems like a Fed movement to me now. Like, either people are feds or they're acting like feds. And I'm not like falsely accusing people of being feds. I'm just saying in general, they act like feds. It's like, if you meet somebody that's like, oh, let's go fucking storm the Capitol. Oh, it's like, either that's like a fed or somebody that's trying to get you to commit a crime because they're so stupid that they're going to end up like, you don't act like that. You got to act like intelligent and like well thought out and like, on the chessboard. You can't just be like, oh, I'm going to fall for every trap because I'm pissed off. And it's like that sort of thing, like the election, this and that. It's like, you guys talk about all that stuff all the time and just keep your audience in this circle of anger, this circle of fear, this circle of confusion, this circle. And then when a war breaks out, they're all posting like Ukraine propaganda that's not even true. Then the new war breaks out, and then all the usual suspects just come out and just start completely disagreeing with every principle and policy that they've agreed with for the last 7 years. And everybody thinks it's like random, or it's not random. It's like either these guys are stupid, or it's like, I don't follow people that are dumber than me. I don't follow people that are weaker than me. And I don't follow people that are like more sporadic than me. Like, you want to follow someone that gives you peace and insight and wisdom and guidance. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't follow people that are like, and like, that's what I get from a lot of these accounts where I'm like, the whole, it feels like they're just trying to stir up Republicans, not tell you the full story. And that's why people are so pissed off all the time, because they don't know what's going on and it doesn't make sense. It's like the left's coming for them and it's just the left and Trump's going to save them or DeSantis is going to save them. And that's why people are panicking all the time. I'm completely calm, and I'm not saying like one thing that I can't stand. I hate hearing people dying. I hate hearing terrorist attacks overseas. I hate hearing innocent Israelis and Palestinians killed. Like, that is sickening to me. I hate bad news. You know what I'm saying? That always makes me feel uncomfortable when war breaks out or some tragedy happens. Nobody likes a tragedy, right? But then you move forward like a week and you just start seeing what people are saying and all this stuff. And I have so many people that I know that this week, like, things are so confusing to them because they're like, wait, why is Dave Rubin being a hypocrite? Why is Shapiro doing that? Like, what's going on? And like, everyone's like confused. And if you watch some of these people, you're in this state of like, I'm completely calm because I've known who these people were 4 years ago. And I'm not trying to brag like I'm so ahead of the time or whatever, but it's like, I'm at peace, not with the evil that's in the world that's sick and disgusting. And I wish it could be, or the evil could be eradicated, but I'm not God. I can't do that. But in general, it's like, I'm not confused by any of this. People are like, oh, RFK sounds like a warmonger. Oh my God, I can't believe RFK said that. I could believe it. I've listened to him for months. I knew who RFK was 4 months ago. DeSantis, I've known who he was since 2019. Donald Trump, same sort of stuff. So it's like people will act like being angry aimlessly is like really good for you but like the reason people are so upset and angry is because the people that are pissing them off, like these blowhard Republican, I want to say a different word, but I don't want these blowhard Republican idiots. They're not only pissing you off like righteously, showing you all the evil, they're showing you all the evil, pissing you off, but they're not giving you the key that unlocks everything, that shows you why it's even happening. So it's like this constant cycle of like being pissed off. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yes, the 2020 election was sketchy, but here's what they're not telling you, which makes it all irrelevant anyway. In 2016, Donald Trump won the election. In 2016, the populists won. And in 2020, the country was locked down anyway. So if you say the 2020 election doesn't matter, I say the 2016 election didn't matter because the country ended up in a lockdown. Trump printed more money than Obama, and the Federal Reserve did what they wanted. And, yeah, you might have gotten a few things here or there, but if Trump winning can't even stop a lockdown and he runs around selling vaccines harder than Bill Gates, then that means the 2016 election didn't really matter that much. And if Mitt Romney runs against John McCain, then that election didn't really matter that much. So it's like the elections don't matter, but the 2024 election is not going to be fair, not just because all these blowhard Republicans are pissing you off, trying to get you to like do some weird Fetty thing and get you in trouble. But in general, the 2024 election doesn't matter because all the leading candidates in it are going to do almost the same exact thing when it comes to certain policies. And there's not a single person in the top three that cares about the First Amendment. So that's why the election sold out, because whether Trump, DeSantis, or Biden wins, it doesn't actually matter for certain categories, and the slippery slope is going to continue, and it's not going to change. So it's like, once you realize that, all this other noise doesn't really matter that much, and you're not freaking out all the time. It's not great or anything, but it's like, with clarity comes peace. I have clarity on these topics. Like, I'm not shocked when DeSantis does something. I've known who DeSantis was in that topic since 2019. So it's like, it sucks seeing him go further and further and exaggerate more and more. And like, but I'm not surprised. Donald Trump at this point, nothing would surprise me with that guy. And, it's one of those things where I think with clarity comes peace. And that's my ultimate goal as far as like, at this point, I'm going to leave on this note. Obviously, there's bad stuff going on in the world, but they are trying to divide and conquer again. They are running the same George W. Bush like fear-mongering playbook, and they want people to be divided. They want both sides to be angry. They want people to be uncomfortable, and they want there to be a lot of tension in the world, because with the tension, it's easy to exploit people. And when something happens, if a tragedy happens, now there's more that they can do off of it. And I'm not saying they're purposely creating it, but I'm saying at this point now, there's not a lot of people trying to ease back the tension. They're trying to stir it up and stir us all up like a pot in America. So all I'm saying is, no matter whether you agree or disagree with me on this topic or on some of the wars in Ukraine and Israel and Palestine and stuff, just promise me you don't believe these psychopaths, whether they're left wing or right wing, that are just trying to stir you up like a hornet's nest and just let you loose, because that's what the elites and the establishment want, is people to just be freaked out, pissed off aimlessly. And I've heard of 2 attacks recently on both sides of the equation. And I'm not going to name names and blame people because I don't think that that's fair when people do it. But it's like, it's not surprising to me when I listen to half of these people, whether it's like Rachel Maddow on the left or some of these blowhards on the right. Like, it feels like they're not trying to give their audience like wisdom and intelligence and these things that can really like set you free. It feels like they're just trying to like stir you up. Like, if you watch Rachel Maddow, you might as well be in a mental institution. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's a psychopath. What happens when you watch Rachel Maddow 5 times a week? Like, that's an experiment I don't want to find out. She's a legitimate psycho. And then a lot of the blowhards on the right, like, I listen to them for 3 minutes and I'm like, not only are they angry and full of shit and giving you like 90% truth, 10% lies and being sporadic about it, like, they're riling people up and there's nowhere to go. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, people are like, we got to really overthrow the system. Where are you going to go? You're going to go right to prison. You're not doing shit. You know what I'm saying? There is no civil war. Tim Pool just has his beanie on too tight and it's sweaty because he wears the same one every day. It's gross. But in general, you get what it's like. Where do you think you're going listening to Rachel Maddow or the blowhards on the right? You're not going anywhere. There's nothing going on. The problem is more complex than that. Like, being pissed off, it would be like if I didn't have money for rent And instead of figuring out how to get money for rent, I just freaked out and started bashing holes in my wall. It's like, that's not going to pay my rent. And this is what these people are doing. I'm not saying the system's not corrupt. I'm not saying the elections are 100% fair. I'm just saying when I listen to these blowhard Republicans, it's like Rachel Maddow vibes, where it's just like aimless anger. And people are like so pissed, like, we got to freaking do something about it. You're not going to do anything about it. You're literally just going to get Fed trapped again. They already did that to you, and they're probably going to do it again at a certain point. And I'm not saying you have the right to peacefully protest, but just all I'm asking is people on the left and the right, be very careful, because they're trying to stir up the pot on both sides. And it's like, at the end of the day, you have to logically think about what's going on. You can't just be aimlessly angry. You know what I'm saying? If you want to fix a problem in your house, sometimes it's annoying and sometimes it's not ideal, but you got to figure out how to really do it to fix it. You can't just like throw a fit. I want to clean my toilet, I'm mad, and then you just bash a hole in it. It's like, that's what I feel like when I watch some of the Republican content that people are sharing me. It's like, I don't care about the message that they're doing, but they're trying so hard to freak people out. And it's like, some of these things aren't adding up. Like in general, you know, now Republicans that I see are sharing the FBI director saying that Hamas is like a terror threat. And now, after months of them complaining about the FBI and how Christopher Wray sucks and he's after them, now all of a sudden they're on the side and they're like, oh, we're going after Hamas. Here's all I'm going to say. And I'm not saying the FBI doesn't do any good work, because they obviously do some great stuff. But, you know, are they concerned with the border? You know, the same one telling you about Hamas now in this country and whatever, like, then where are these people saying close the border? If the FBI and these intelligence communities were so concerned with people coming into our country from other countries, which they should be, where are they? Where have they been in the national conversation for the last 5-6 years? It's not just that there's millions of people coming from all countries, and they're not concerned at all about this stuff ever until a war breaks out. And now all of a sudden, you know, you got right wingers agreeing with the intelligence communities for 3 weeks as if they're on the same exact page. Like, you know, why won't they close our border tomorrow then, or today? Like, you know, if they really cared, they'd close it right now. They'd be like, all right, we're at war. You know, we got to put our military on the border and make sure 0 people come in, because now's not the time. If they do that, then I'll believe that they really care about terrorism in this country, because it's like there's millions of people coming across the border. But if they're not going to do that and they're not going to secure our border, but then they're going to say that they're worried about threats, I don't believe them, because it doesn't add up. You know, 1 + 1 isn't 17, and that's what, or 7. Oh no, 17 is the Q. Now people are going to freak out, but you get what I'm saying? So all I'm saying is do not let these people drive you into misery and fear and uncomfort, because with clarity comes peace. And I know it's a difficult situation, but I'm like disgusted when I watch certain things. And it's not, obviously not just Republicans. It's like the left too, like Rachel Maddow's and stuff, like the View, like watching them, I'm like, ew, you know, it's just like everybody's trying to stir everybody up. And it just reminds me of 2002, except more technology, more ways to use it. And I just hope everybody has a good week, really thinks critically about what they're doing and who they're following and what they're thinking. And that's really it. You know what I'm saying? Stay peaceful, stay calm, stay rational, and God bless you guys. You know, feel free to listen to who you want to listen to, but don't let it drive you into insanity. At the end of the day, you can only do what you can do, and you can't freak out and go nuts over it, you know, because I know a lot of people are taking it very harshly, obviously, and it sucks, you know. Appreciate you guys. God bless. I'll be out soon.
Hey, what's going on, my friends? Just a few ways to stay in touch and support if you'd like to. The first way is dreamrare.com. We have blue beanies, black beanies, pink hats, other colored hats, freedom versus tyranny shirts, stay blessed long sleeve, God is great long sleeve, and lots of more cool items coming soon. Dreamrare.com. Check out the shop to support. Everything's made in the United States. Handpicked by me. Patreon.com/raretalk. For $5 a month, you can help support me, support the show. If you haven't noticed, unlike other channels, I don't work with very many sponsors, sometimes none at all. And part of the way I'm able to do that is with the dreamrare.com shop and patreon.com/raretalk. So thank you guys for keeping this show free, unimpeded, uninterrupted. I'm forever grateful. My free email list is stayintouchwithme.com. So check the links below in the description, or just type in on any browser, stayintouchwithme.com, all one word. You'll find my email list, put it in there, and it's the least annoying email list you'll ever be on. I barely use it because I don't like getting emailed every day or every week. It's annoying.
so I don't do it. StayInTouchWithMe.com. It helps me take back some power away from big tech. Telegram, t.me/DreamRareChat or @DreamRareChat. Due to censorship, I post all my live stream and videos there. Sometimes I have some bonus content, and I try to give people a heads up when Facebook or YouTube won't. DreamRareChat at Telegram. My Instagram is @DreamRare. Thanks for everybody following there for shorter content. And DreamRareLinks.com, that's DreamRareLinks.com, has all my stuff. My podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, my music on Spotify and Apple, my Rumble page, my BitChute and Gab page. All my links are found at DreamRareLinks.com. Thanks for watching, folks. God bless you. You already know I'll be back with more content soon. Appreciate you.